I'm Lori Geller. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. This is awesome. We've got a packed house in here. And I also want to just thank a few other people before I introduce our featured speaker. I want to thank all of the MSU departments, the faculty, staff, students who help make all of this possible. None of it would happen without all of them. I also want to thank the Hampton Inn, Marindry Electric Cooperative. They donate every year. They're awesome. Northwest Arts Center, Flattail Press, Speedball Arts, and all of you for being here. So this year we are honored to have Brad Vetter as one of our NOTSTOCK guests. Brad is a designer, letterpress printer, artist, and educator based in Louisville.
Yeah, nice.
Louisville, Kentucky. After graduating from Western Kentucky University, he began working at the legendary Hat Show Print in Nashville, Tennessee, that I think he'll talk to you a little bit about. In 2012, he started his own shop, Brad Vetter Design, where he currently spends time teaching workshops, designing wine labels and other fun things, printing letterpress, posters, building community, and making art. Some of his clients include Nike and Fossil and Anthropology, the Ryman Auditorium, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, Chevy, as well as bands like Chris Stapleton, Jason Isbell, John Prine, Foo Fighters, Shovels and Rope, and more. So Brad and another artist, Mary Bruno, who's up here on the front, are printing over in our Northwest Arts Center, so make sure you stop over there and see them while they're here. They've also got art for sale with them, as well as on their website. So give it up for Brad Vetter.
Yay! Right. Hi. Welcome, everybody. Again, my name is Brad Vetter. I'm a graphic designer and letterpress printer living and working in Louisville, Kentucky. I studied graphic design in school, felt pretty removed from working on the computer so much of the time. So I started to incorporate printmaking and handmade elements into my work more and more. And through that, discovered Letterpress and this amazing shop in Nashville, Tennessee called Hat Show Print. Hat started in 1879, the year that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, which is pretty amazing. And they've printed posters for entertainers throughout the South, whether it was vaudeville and minstrel shows to Johnny Cash and Hank Williams and all of those great country artists, to anyone and everyone that is coming through Nashville these days. Letterpress, all right. Did you all see the next slide? No.
Can't move it.
I don't know what's happening. Huh. You can see that. What they're seeing and what I'm seeing is totally different. Okay. Wait, let me hit.
Stop sharing desktop. Start sharing.
Start sharing?
Just like stop and then start again. See if it stop sharing. Share desktop. It should show everything that's on your desktop. There we go.
Yeah. All right. I flipped ahead before it and it had worked, but play on this back. You all can see what I'm seeing. Which, yes. When I was talking about Hatch, this is the image that was up. Apologies for that. All right, there we go. It's got a little delay. Apologies again. So letterpress is very simply letters pressed into paper with ink in between. I like this really dumb definition of letterpress because it allows for so much to happen in that process. So when I talk about letters, this is a photo of the interior of Hatch. This is the old shop cat named Huey. So in all of these cases are different sizes and styles of lead type and wood type. And then if you look in the back, those are shelves, huge shelves that are filled with different type that was made from 1879 when the shop started to new images and new type being carved in the shop today. And they use this incredible collection to make posters for all of these amazing acts that are coming through Nashville. I love to show these two prints next to each other because it shows such a contrast of the traditional and the new work that's happening today. So this is a poster from 1967, I believe, of Johnny Cash playing in Minneapolis with June Carter Cash, Mother Maybelle, Carl Perkins. Just an incredible show to anyone who is a country music fan. And you could go to that show for $1.50, which I think is pretty amazing. And then next to that is a poster that I made 50 years later for Old Crow Medicine Show playing at the Ryman Auditorium, this beautiful historic theater in Nashville. These two posters hold two completely different purposes. And when I started at Hatch, it was around 2005, 2004. And this was a time when the internet was starting to be in everybody's houses. So the means for communication was changing so much. In 1957 or 67, there were not as many means for advertising. So these posters were put up on telephone poles. They were hanging in shop windows. You would see them pasted to the sides of barns to get people out of their house, out of their farm, and to come into town to see this concert. When I got the job ticket for Old Crow Medicine Show playing at the Ryman, that show was already sold out before I was even handed that ticket, which meant that I got to create something that was fun, something that celebrated that band playing in Nashville, Tennessee at that time. So my poster, while it's maybe a little bit harder to read than the Johnny Cash Show poster, it's feeling more contemporary and lives in a new aesthetic that poster artists these days get to enjoy. So in 2012, my wife, who was an intern at Hatch, and I decided to move to DeKalb, Illinois. I met Adrienne at Hatch. She was an intern with us at the shop. And when she wanted to go to grad school, I had my rusty old press that had been living in my garage, and we moved up to Illinois, and I started to print posters on my own for concerts that were happening in DeKalb. For me, I've always loved music. I'm a big fan of sort of anything and everything, and there were all of these amazing shows that were happening in my tiny little town of DeKalb. And I got to make posters for those shows just by simply asking if I made 25 posters for the show, could I get in for free? So that was the deal. And what happened with those posters for me is it allowed me to push my aesthetic and try some new stuff that was not Hatch Show print. I was trying to decide and determine my own aesthetic and style of printing. Along with having this new little studio in a new little town, I had access to a laser cutter for the first time. The work that I was making at Hatch Show Print involved no computers at all. It was all of this antique type and antique equipment, but now all of a sudden I can use my computer. I don't have to work within the confines of what Hatch was doing at that shop. So I'm able to make my own printing blocks using the laser cutter. Here it's laser cutting and then reversing it out. And with that, I'm able to make these amazing new printing blocks to work from that are sort of unlike any of this vintage stuff that I was using at Hatch. Getting to make posters for bands like Frankie Cosmos that maybe not as many people have heard of. And through doing all of these little shows and developing a style of my own, slowly bigger names are starting to come to me. So I'm getting to make posters for Greg Allman and Mumford & Sons and bigger bands like that, which is really exciting to me. And did it happen again? Happened again. Stop sharing or share?
Sharing and then try to share again. Share the desktop. I don't know if it's the connection. Might be the connection.
Dang.
It's okay. Roll with the flow. We'll do stand up when we have interruptions. We'll get
Yeah,
Mary
Mary, come on up here. All right. Let's see. Oh. Apologies for these delays. So while I'm working on making these posters, really I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, like how I'm going to be making a living making these posters. And for me, the gig poster work is really fun and a really exciting way for me to be a part of my community and this culture that I love so much. So getting to make these posters, not only putting something beautiful out into the world, but sort of developing my own style and then adding to the culture of my own community becomes a really important thing. So the posters that I'm making are no longer on the telephone poles, no longer in the coffee shop windows. So you kind of have to look elsewhere to see the posters in the wild. And this is from the IT crowd, as well as Nashville, the TV show. They had some of my posters as set decoration on there. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I went ahead and made an IMDb page for myself so that I could feel pretty special. I haven't updated it recently, but I'm sure that something else has popped up. So along with doing the posters, developing my own style outside of the work that I was doing at Hatch, I was approached by a vineyard in California called Signal Ridge to design wine labels. And these wine labels, the client asked me to design these labels based on some of the posters that I had been making. So allowing this new aesthetic that I'm developing to grow into something that is beyond show posters and, to be honest, kind of helps pay the bills a little bit better than the little gig posters. But getting to explore my work in a new way. And again, I'm always excited by the way that people are engaging with my work, and having somebody sharing a bottle of wine over, like with my label on it feels really special and feels to be like something that is important to me. And along with that importance of working with people who are doing beautiful things and making great music, making great wine, Chris Stapleton has become one of my biggest clients in the past few years. I've made a few posters for him, and he's just an incredible songwriter, incredible performer. And I'm so happy to have made a few posters for him over the years. And I was updating my slides the other day, and I saw this, and I was like, well, this feels pretty outdated. So I made a new one with all of the, and this is maybe even like a third of the posters that I've made for Chris over the years. And he's been such an amazing client who lets me do my own thing, but at the same time, we've been able to develop a style that's specifically for him. The most recent one is this one here for Kentucky Rising. There were recent flooding in eastern Kentucky, and so this poster is a benefit for the victims of that flood, which I am super excited to be a part of that incredible event. So here's an example, maybe. Stop sharing. Okay, desktop. Slow going, y'all. All right. So here's a poster for Chris Stapleton playing at Red Rocks in Colorado, just an incredible venue. So I have the poster on one side, but then on the other side, I have my form, which is all of the type locked up as it would be on the press. And you can see here where there's some lighter colored type next to that darker colored type. What I'm able to do now that I have a laser cutter is I can print or laser cut replacement letters from my antique wood type. So the T and the P is type that I had in my shop that, you know, maybe is 75, 100 years old, and I'm able to reproduce new characters that flesh out that particular font of type so that I can incorporate that into the work that I'm doing. So the band names are getting bigger and bigger, which is really exciting. As I'm printing these posters for these little indie punk bands that I like, I'm getting calls from Cake and Foster the People and the Foo Fighters, and that feels really good to sort of get to do the big name work alongside of these bands that I really love. And because I had been printing for, now I'm about 10 years away from Hat Show Print. Now people are coming to me for posters that are Brad Vetter posters as opposed to the Hatch prints. And that felt really important to me as I struck out on my own to make some work that felt like my own. So in 2018, I was approached by Shawn Mendes to make a poster for every single show on his world tour in 2019. So it was something like 85 posters that they needed in about 2 months that I had to design all of these prints. In this particular case, they weren't printing the posters, so it wasn't letterpress posters. They were digitally created from the type and the collection of blocks that I have to live as Instagram stories for 24 hours on, a tiny little iPhone. And I guess when you have like 5 million Instagram followers, it's a good use of your advertising budget to work that way. So here's a quick video. Let's see how well that works. So this is a process of me printing one of the posters for the event. So you can see a little bit of my studio here. So we did end up printing a few posters for them solely for the marketing of the larger run of events. And because I am a printer and I'm so interested in the way that people are interacting with my work, there was something that didn't feel right about just making a poster that would live on Instagram for 24 hours and that was it. We actually got to go to the show in Louisville, so I got to take this picture from the front row, which felt really funny to be sitting front row at a Shawn Mendes show, who is somebody who I'm not super interested in. But is flipping through some of the posters that we made. And we made so many prints in the end that I thought it would be really cool if they turned the posters into a big mural, and they ended up making a big mural of my posters outside of the O2 Arena in London, and it allowed everyone to go and interact with my posters. So I sat on Instagram for a day and looked at the location tag and screenshotted all of the people who were posing next to my posters. And every single person is happy and smiling. Maybe it's their first concert, maybe they've been to a bunch, but there was something that happened in looking at these photos that really has made me think about the way that I make work and how people engage with it in a totally different way. This gives me goosebumps every time I see it because everybody's so happy and really enjoying themselves as they're going. But so fun to see that. In 2012, my wife and I moved back to my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, and it became really important for me to immediately start to engage with the community and do work for bands that were coming through my town. So luckily I had a few clients who I'd been working with before I moved to Louisville that when they were coming through town, I asked if I could make the poster for it, and I was able to start working with Jason Isbell and John Prine and Nick Offerman, who I absolutely love. He played at a theater that's now directly behind my current studio, and I had the chance to meet him, which was a pretty big dream come true. I really love that guy. This is a mural that I did from a bunch of quotes from Muhammad Ali that I printed on all of these different colored backgrounds and then wheat pasted them to a wall in a new co-working space. So people who don't have offices can come to this place and share internet and snacks and things like that, but they can look at my beautiful artwork along with a bunch of other artists from Louisville to while they're working. And again, it became more about engaging with the work. Now I'm used to it. All right. Play. All right. So in 2016, when Donald Trump was elected, my wife and I decided to go to the Women's March in Washington, D.C. And the day before, during the inauguration, I invited people into my studio, and we just got to have a nice day where I had printed these backgrounds, and we just said a bunch of quotes that were all positive things that we could bring to the Women's March and hand out, and everybody could have their own poster to hold up as they were walking around. And when we got there, we had this huge stack of posters, and I was like, what are we gonna do with these posters? And somebody immediately walked up and said, hey, what do you have there? And so we gave them a poster, and then all of a sudden there were 50 people around us, and we were just slinging posters all over the place. And we walked away, and there were so many people there that we didn't really see many people holding the posters. Because I had printed them the day before, I did see one person who had blue fingerprints all over their face because they had an inky print still. So be careful with those prints that you all have. And we didn't see many of those posters, but the next day on Instagram, someone shared this image with me that I thought was really powerful. Everybody with their pink hats on, and this "We Are the Future" print held by a woman in a tree. I thought was really cool. So along with printing posters for bands, my wife and a few friends and I started a group called CULT, that is the Creative Union of Louisville Trades. And it's just like a fun, silly group that we started as a way to just bring together our creative community and bring in some really fun voices. And we've put on a few events, and because I'm a poster printer, I want to make a poster for all of those events. I also got involved in the AIGA, which is the professional organization for graphic designers. And it's a way to not only network, but to, again, like raise the voices that we wanted to be heard in our town. So bringing in some presenters that we thought were bringing in a fresh perspective, very similar to what's happening with us being here today with NOTSTOCK. So just bringing in some new diverse voices to speak and be here in my community. So in 2020, March of 2020, everybody remember how great that time was? Everybody was hoarding toilet paper, and our governor, Andy Beshear, would give these public briefings every day at 4 o'clock, and it became this event. Like everybody had to go be in front of the TV to listen to the briefing, and he began every COVID briefing by saying, "We will get through this, we will get through this together." And I loved that line, and something that I was seeing as I was going for my daily walks or runs around town was kids drawing rainbows all over the sidewalk, or you would see them up in their house window as this symbol of hope. And so I thought, I'm going to print that rainbow, and then I'm going to print that quote on top of it. And I made maybe 40 or 50 of these posters to give to a few business owners so they could put them up in their windows while they were closed as sort of this solidarity for what everybody was going through. And I had maybe 10, 15 posters for sale, and I was like, oh, I'll spend half of the money that I make from selling these posters. I'll support local businesses, and then the other half I'll donate to the Team Kentucky Fund, which essentially is a nonprofit that raised money for people affected by COVID. And I ended up printing about 700 of the posters because I had sold out of that first batch so quickly that I just decided to keep going. And printing these posters was this thing that I could go into my studio, I could do it on my own. It was a very therapeutic time for me to go and print that. And also, I asked everybody who had bought the poster to take a picture of it. And it was so fun just to see how people engaged with that work. Some people printed it on shirts. It was printed as a big mural. Kids decorated with little hearts and things like that around it. So I definitely had sort of the same goosebumpy moments that I had from the time when I had looked at the Shawn Mendes posters being photographed. So I put this as my last slide because that's my wife and my little puppy Juniper Rainbow. And this is my Mary Bruno poster that I have. By the end of 2020, my whole storm door was covered with posters that people had made, and I could barely, like, you couldn't see out of my front door because I had so many posters on there. And I don't know if that was like trashy to my neighbors or not, but I liked it. Yeah. So yeah, again, my friend Jesse ended up turning my poster into a mural, and it's in a relatively busy part of downtown Louisville, so it became really exciting that people would come and take photographs of it. At one point, like maybe a month ago, it was just the rainbow, so everything else had fallen apart and broken up, so they cut it so it was just the rainbow. I think looks really good. And again, it's just fun to see people smiling next to these prints that I made. Let's see. And through doing that project, I was able to work on another set of sort of positive COVID posters. These posters, the sale of these posters went to Music Cares, which basically supported the music industry when nobody was able to have concerts. So, as a poster printer, a gig poster printer, when there weren't concerts, I didn't have work. So anytime projects like this came up, I had to jump on it and sort of support my friends and my future customers. So this series of posters, they were supposed to be PSA posters to help people with COVID. So a lot of people made them about washing your hands and keeping distance. But I was so wrapped up in seeing other people like learning new languages and reading all these books and becoming crazy runners and things like that. But I wanted to be sort of a little bit more relaxed about it. So some of them say like read a book, and then underneath it really small it says or don't. And the tagline for all of these posters is raising the bar on lowered expectations. So along with printing the concert posters and doing the design work, I really love doing this type of stuff, getting out and sort of sharing the love of letterpress printing. And everybody has a smile when you're printing, and I really love that. So the first photo is from the Portland Museum in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a small little museum in a like historically low-income neighborhood. So everyone that comes in is so excited to have all of these fun activities going on. The other photo is our friend Amy Redman printing in Seattle, Washington, and it's just so fun to see people enjoying themselves. Like these two faces kill me. This is, again, my friend Jessie got to print some posters for her birthday, and she was very excited about it. And I cannot get over this girl's face in that photo. So happy. So a couple of years ago now, I was able to purchase a building for my studio in Louisville. This is a photo of it in the 80s. It does not look like that. It's not quite as cool looking as it used to be, which is funny. But we're calling the space Friend of Mine, and not only is it my personal studio, but we're also going to host workshops, have gallery events, and things like that. The back half of the studio is where I keep all of my big, heavy equipment. So you can see my small collection of wood type and a little bit of the lead type that I have. So nothing like what Hatch had, but I have my own little corner of the world. And the front half of the space is more for the community. So this is where the gallery will be. My perspective was really weird on that. So I have a fun little office with all of the things that sort of inspire me, along with like a smaller demo print shop. And then the rest of the area is open for events and workshops and galleries. And we hope that it's going to be a space for collaboration and community and all kinds of good things. So I made this print for the event this weekend, and you can see here's a small video of me cutting the printing block that's on the smaller press that some of you all had printed on. So I just wanted to get a little bit of that process in there as well. So thank you all so much, and thanks for putting up with weird technical issues. So.